Continue to take a look at the morning papers. I'm joined in studio by eNCA journalist Gcina Mvana as well as comedian Teboho Theoha. Okay, so let's look at the Sunday Independent. Here's a question. Black racism in court. Top executives in K-word spat. Law must decide if Africans can be racist against each other. Teboho, I'll start with you.
The eye roll felt across the country. The eye roll felt across the country. Black people can't be racist.
To each other?
Especially to each other. Like, you can be indignant, you can be ignorant, but if we define racism as the use of power against someone based on the color of their skin, then we can't be racist to each other. We're kind of in the same barrel, as it were. So even if you are slightly above me, you're still in the same category. Like, if you listen to the story of OJ on Jay-Z's new album, he'll tell you that whether you're a rich black guy or a poor black guy, when you step out of that space, you're still just a black guy.
Yeah,
so,
that's,
I mean,
yeah.
Sema, do you agree?
I'll just illiterate
people can't be racist towards each other.
No, we're not particularly racist, but we do measure each other on class and standard. Who are you? Where do you work? How much money do you make? Where do you live? What kind of clothes do you wear? What kind of car do you drive? Hey, where do you work? Exactly, that's the thing. So we can't be, but I'm asking myself, but racism, what is it about? Is it not about race, according to us as people, human beings of different creeds? Is it not about that? So I mean, maybe they should use another word instead of racism.
Oh, maybe
I think they should find another word to use instead of racism amongst black people. I mean, I don't think we can be racist, but yeah, we'll look down. Some people look down on each other or look up on other people. But racism, nah, I'll pass on that one.
All right, let's look at something that's got a lot of people tickled. And I'm sure for comedians, you guys have content for days now. It's alleged. Oh, it's confirmed. Is it confirmed, Goto, that President Jacob Zuma is set to marry a 24-year-old?
The gorgeous.
When you saw that, what went through your mind? Were you already on stage, like ready with the doll?
Oh, I saw the story and I was just, the juices started flowing, you know. I just
about exactly.
Give us a line.
Give us a line. Like, what is so exciting about this? Tell me.
I've always wondered how Jacob Zuma stays so, how shall I put it, virile and energetic, as it were. And there's an expression that says, you're only as young as the woman you feel.
Amen.
You know, you're only as young as the woman you feel. And he's going younger and younger. You know, I mean, I'm at a point where I think I would struggle to pull a 25-year-old out the club.
How old are you guys?
You know, I think I'd struggle with that. But Jacob Zuma has still got game.
Yeah.
So we can't hate him for that.
Whose business is it? Is it anybody's business?
Absolutely
what he does with his private life?
Business. He's no longer a statesman. Whatever he does, he does. If we want to focus on Zuma and what's happening in Zuma's life, maybe it's the ongoing trial that he's still going back to court for on June the 8th. But other than that, I mean, it's his personal life. Who does not have their own personal life, guys? Who does not have their own things that you would like kept private? He is no longer, well, I won't say in our public domain, but it's not as before. And even if it was before, it's none of anyone's business. It's his thing. And it's this woman, she's not a child. She's a grown woman who's able to make her own decisions. So if she decides that I would like to be with this man who is old enough to be my grandfather, 52 years older than me, it is none of our business. She's in love. They're in love. Guys,
why
do you disagree?
I disagree completely. It is our business. It is our business. I mean, I do a community radio show during the week in the evenings, which is a current affairs show, and I'm always trying to teach my listeners how to connect the dots. We need to be able to connect the dots in our society. Yeah. These stories aren't isolated pillars. They all weave into each other. I mean, you go through the papers and there's a scandal in the Northwest where cattle have gone missing, where apparently there was money set aside to help, you know, emerging farmers. Cattle were bought, they never made it there. but they did make it to Nkandla,
Right.
you see. So there are now 25 cows have popped up in Nkandla and Dugu. Now there's a new wife who's shown up. You know, those cows obviously need to be channeled.
But she's been, apparently she's been in
You're
the
making
picture
it
since
very
she was 19 years old. No, it's very dangerous because apparently she's been in the picture since she was 19 years old.
No, she's
so I
been
don't
in
think
the
that these
picture.
cows,
But these cows
Lobola was
disappeared.
paid yesterday.
Jacob Zuma and
Supra,
Nonkanyiso,
yeah.
I always like to say this woman or this lady, she's got a name,
Yes,
Nonkanyiso,
yes.
right? They apparently hooked up, if you check, according to her Twitter timeline, around 2014,
Yeah.
2014, 2015.
It's over 3 years ago.
And these
yes.
cows, this cow scandal emerged around about that time as well. Now, I am not here saying that there is a definite link. I am not saying, I'm just saying, if you look at the two stories right next to each
are
other,
joining the dots.
it's very difficult for you not to draw the parallels to these particular stories.
So she's just, she's new into this whole scene of us, the public, looking at her. So you're telling me that she's been dragged into yet another scandal?
See, I feel like this shouldn't have even made the news because it's all above board. Jacob Zuma he's a public polygamist, you know, and it's not like he went and stole this girl from her village or whatever, you know.
Yeah, a koktwala, like it was consensual.
It's all consensual.
Exactly.
It's between two consensual adults and their families, and the rest of his wives know about it as well. I mean, we get giddy when we're watching, what is it, Istembu, right?
Yes, we absolutely that show. Yeah.
We get giddy about it on Black Twitter when we're watching it. But then when this happens, we want to have now this indignation to say, but no, why is Jacob Zuma?
You know, I think the thing with
watch Utando on his table and comment and feel lovely about it.
I think the thing with our former president is, number one, his age. Like, you still got it. You still... You're still there.
Let's talk on the issue of community radio stations and licensing. This is quite big, and I'm not sure why it's not enjoying as much attention.
As much publicity.
Yeah. Firsthand, I mean, you're talking about your work at a community radio station. What is the situation there, and what is the threat being posed by this license issue?
You know, for those of our viewers who aren't aware, there's a licensing issue where a community radio station has to pay a particular amount to Centec, who is the company who basically broadcasts everyone's signals out. And a lot of these community radio stations rely on donations from the community, or they're funded by
other community.
In our case, we're funded by the university. It's the Vaal University of Technology's campus radio. We are lucky because we're funded by the university. But one of our sister stations in the Free State, Karabo FM, isn't as lucky.
Yeah.
And when you look at the bill that they received, it's an exorbitant bill. And I don't know why the government isn't stepping in, because these community radio stations provide so much local content for those people. I mean, it's easy for us to be sitting here talking about national issues, but if there's a riot happening in Sharpeville, the people of Sharpeville are counting on us as the local station to bring them direct access to the stories happening around them. Like, I'm sorry, I don't have a gag for that one, because that one is just too personal. It's too personal. It's too close to home, that one, you know.
Gcina, as a journalist, many of us started on community radio stations. I think the importance of community radio stations can never be underplayed.
They can never be underplayed. I mean, I'll just tell you a bit about the community radio. I didn't work directly for that community radio station. It was an NGO with children who would broadcast their shows about HIV and the effects of HIV in their lives. And let me tell you that the effects of that radio station, of those children's shows to the community and educating, because the primary role of a community radio station is educating and informing the community more than, you know, our mainstream media. So I do think that this will have quite an effect, because and especially community radio stations in rural areas, because those are the most vulnerable, and people around there really, really depend. A lot of their knowledge, a lot of their information really, because some of them, they don't have internet where you can just go to Google. You want to find something out, you go straight to Google. Some of them really depend on those radio stations. Sometimes you just have to listen using your batteries, you know, to listen to your radio. You get information, you know what's happening around the world.
Internet and Google. These are people who still have batteries.
That's simple stuff.
You know, radios powered by batteries. So Yeah, it's a tough one, but I'm hoping that there will be some sort of intervention in the coming weeks. We're putting a lot of pressure on the stakeholders in our area to actually do something about it, because we honestly, as communities who are far-flung, they can't afford to be without that primary source of information.
Do you find that people on the ground, the community itself, are they aware of what is happening, and are they aware that they have power to add their voice to say, if you take this away from us, what happens?
We're educating them. We're definitely educating them with just like general broadcasts. Every news cycle that we run, we repeat the story at the top of every hour, and we're letting them know to say, this is going to be a problem for all of us. So get on the phone.
This is what you can do.
This is what you can do. Call your counselors, even if it means money needs to be moved from particular places. It has to, because this is, for me, it's a key service being provided to this particular environment. You know, if a place is on fire, you don't want to hear about it, you know, on TV to say, just my backyard neighbors are in a crisis, you know. So because we're on the ground, we can report news as it's happening for these people, and it's vital. It's very,
you can't get more effective than community radio stations, from my experience with that. Yes,
not everyone's
it's on the ground. Not everyone's
on
you know,
that is a very
WhatsApp maybe, but not. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but there's a story on page 6, salary disparity case, page 6 of the Sunday Times, I beg your pardon. Salary disparity case heads to court. Employers whose base salary offers on the job applicants' previous pay slips are discriminating against black South Africans. This is a contention at the heart of a labor court case brought by Patuxolo Mvana, who took up the legal cuddles of this case.
So basically, in that story,
we have to.
Patu is
exactly.
Patu is challenging Massmart, as it were, to say that he found out by whatever means that one of his co-workers, who is a white woman, was earning 25% more than he's earning for the same amount of work. And on paper, their CVs are exactly, they're practically identical.
Yeah.
So there's no reasonable way that Massmart could justify the disparity in the salaries there. And he's left his job because it became a hostile work environment. But I think it's like, we all know, guys, we all know, as the blacks in corporate, we all know that this thing is real.
This is something that is also not a problem that's exclusive to South Africa. I think internationally we've seen this. A recent example is a lady from the BBC, a journalist who came out to say that a man is getting paid more than she is. So you've also got those dynamics at play. How do we even begin to address that? Do we put up a website and there's like a certain section where you see what salaries, a certain job scale gives you and how much?
I think that would only be fair, but somewhere along the lines it would get twisted, because sexism and race in the workplace will always play a huge role, especially if you are a black female. I'm not trying to act all sorry, but that's just the reality of things in South Africa, and like you said earlier on, Kuko, around the world, that such things do exist. You'll find that you're a black female, whether it's I don't know whether it's about undermining your job, that you can actually do your job properly, or just undermining you as a person yourself. But it happens, and I don't know if there are any laws to address. So I do hope that the guy who's gone to court and is challenging this thing, I hope that it does work out, because it won't just be about him, but it will also be about current employers and future people who are going to be going into the workplace and facing this, because this thing is nothing less than short of being discrimination.
And just a note, Charlotte's just whispered in my ear that community radio stations have been reconnected by Centec, but we'll get you more detail on that story and bring you the latest update from Centec on that. Teboho, Gcina, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Liz, for having us.
Newspapers.